All right. Well, welcome all to the last meeting, or actually set of meetings, I suppose, with the continuation of the College Council for this academic year. Very excited. Weather's getting nicer. And so I am going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. So we will begin. Keep admitting people, sorry. We'll begin with the minutes, and I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 second here. Share screen. Minutes from here. Oh, this is the agenda. Give me 1 second, sorry.
I sent it your way, Philip. I can put it in the chat.
I got it. Right. Let me save it here. This will be faster. I think. Let's see. Can everybody see the agenda here on the screen? Or anybody? Any one person?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Let me try to zoom in. Where's the zoom in? I'm having end of the year issues, you know. So. Apologize. There we go. That should be nice and large. All right. Sorry about that. I wasn't quite ready. So these are the meeting minutes from last meeting on March 29th. I'm going to go ahead and scroll through.
You need to share screen.
Oh, I did it. Sorry, can you see it now?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to just scroll through. If anybody has any? It's a very short meeting. Okay, any comments or anything along those lines? Stop the share. Okay, so I'm going to actually, David, do you think you can share the meeting minutes? I guess I must have put the wrong link in the agenda. Can you send the meeting minutes to the whole group here?
Sure, no problem.
Thanks, I appreciate it. I can't kind of do 3 things at once.
Yeah, I understand.
So let's go ahead and vote on the meeting minutes. So all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes for March 29th, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed? I guess you have to put all your hands down. So anyone opposed? Any abstentions? No comments, I don't think, I hope. Okay, so the meeting minutes pass, great. And now on to the most important item on the agenda list, the approval of the graduating class. So Tasha, I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okie dokie, I am here and ready to go. So I don't know if you want me to do a screen share so you can see the report, or?
If you want, I've allowed it, I guess, so.
Okay. There we go. So we have, for September 2021, we have 402 graduates. For January 2022, we have a total of 971 graduates. For February 2022, we have a total of 80 graduates. And for June 2022, we currently have 1,453 candidates. So there you have it.
Great, thank you. This is the first time I'm doing this, so I assume I'm just calling for a vote on the approval of the graduates of 2022. So all of those in favor of approving this graduating class, raise your hand or say aye or clap or whatever you want to do. I'm sure there's Stop the share here. Oh, great. Thank you. So we can see everybody. All right. Any opposed to this graduating class at all? I'll give you all time to lower your hands. So, you know, it doesn't look like you have any opposition. Are there any abstentions? Okay, great. So the graduating class of 2022 passes. Congratulations. All right. Okay, so now let's get on to the items from the standing committees. The first standing committee item on the list is the Personnel Committee. Professor Castillo is here, I believe. I saw.
Yep, there you go.
And I'll let you go ahead and present. This item was a continuation from the last minute, so it's first on our list.
Yeah, everybody can hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, can we? Okay, good. Yeah, no, this was supposed to be in the last meeting, right? We've been dealing this for quite some time, and I think we've come to a resolution, you know, for the most part at least, as perfect as it can be. This resolution on the implementation of external evaluation letters and tenure and promotion. Can I share the screen, or I can just review the few changes that we did make?
You should be able to share the screen, yeah.
Where do I do
turn on screen?
Right, let's see. There we go. Share screen. This here. Okay. There. Everybody can see that now?
We see it.
Okay. You know, again, after much discussion, actually over a couple of years, I think we were able to iron out, you know, most of the differences, you know, that we could. The Board of Trustees is requiring something, you know, like this. They passed, you know, their verbiage is right that resolved, effective with 2018, 2019, all 4-year granting colleges shall ensure that faculty members pursuing tenure and promotion are evaluated by peers who have expertise in their area of study and are external to CUNY, right? So that's what they said, and that's what, you know, that was required, what we have to follow. And so we made sure that that's what, you know, we followed. A few changes that we did make to what was proposed by you know, their Office of Academic Affairs. Not a whole lot at the end of the day. So this is, you know, mostly, you know, what they wanted with some changes. Right here, we struck the part that had outsiders formally sort of use the word tenure, right? Tenure is an assessment that is made, you know, at the college by, you know, our reviewers based on 3 factors: teaching, research, and service. So we just thought it was better that we just remove that, right? And kept everything else, but we removed that. There was some concern about external evaluators who collaborated with us. We thought that a lot of times people who we've worked with know our work better than someone who doesn't. But, you know, but that's not what the Board of Trustees wanted in their requirement. But it doesn't mean that we can't include it in our package of materials. So you know, this resolution states that we can't. It doesn't replace those letters, but we can put those things in our file if we think it's going to help us here. In this page here, candidates are free to include external assessments, even those not deemed sufficiently at arm's length, if it helps you, right? If you want to, but it doesn't replace the 3 that are required. So that was another sticking point that, you know, dragged this thing out, but we were able to resolve that to some degree. And also some context about the college. And in these letters, there is some verbiage here that tries to describe what City Tech is like, right? It is, you know, it's difficult for someone, again, to use extremes, but, you know, from Harvard or Princeton who's reviewing somebody from City Tech, it's going to be different, right? The amount of research we have, probably more than anything, is going to be different than someone working in a real R1, you know, research university. It's a different type of school, and they should understand that, and hopefully they will when they look up, you know, at City Tech, you know, where we are in our comprehensive college, right? That's with 2 and 4 year degrees, and so some of that verbiage is included here, right? And so as far as a policy is concerned, those were the big sticking points. I think, you know, there was some work together, and I think we came to, you know, some kind of resolution here, and so I think, I think it's all right. I think it's acceptable, and right, the board of trustees want something, and we were able to work this stuff out. So, so here it is. I'm going to vote for it. So, and hope you do too. So, I don't know if any questions or comments on this.
Okay, we have, raise your hands for questions and so on. Dean Vasquez-Portz.
Sure, thank you. Marco, just a minor question. In the case of deans writing evaluations for chairs who are applying for promotion, the way they submit it is through the supporting documentation for the parse. So I'm just curious, in this case, if a faculty member has a letter from someone that is, quote, not deemed at arm's length, would they also have to submit it themselves for the supporting documentation?
This keeps that fairly open, right? It says that candidates are free to include external assessments in their promotion materials. So I believe that would be separately, and it could be, the candidate could get those letters, arrange those letters, him or herself, right? And I don't think it's necessary for a dean to do that, but I don't know if.
On the other hand, the benefit of a dean doing that is that all of the letters remain blind. I guess still blind.
Yeah, Justin, they would be included in the e-parse. So the candidate would still submit 3 recommendations. The DAC would submit 3. You would send them out. But if people are having references that are their collaborators, say on a paper or something, that wouldn't be included in the external evaluator reviews, but rather as part of a letter of support that the candidate would include in their e-parse.
Okay, thank you. I support this very much because this is very relevant for those who will be applying for promotion. Thanks.
Thank you.
Let's see. I'm not sure which hand was up first. I think it goes from top to bottom. So, Catherine Raymond.
Hi. I just want to note, I hadn't seen this before, but just in terms of contemporary usage, I think the his, her, we're not doing that anymore. If you could, in terms of gender identity.
Yeah, there's a problem in writing in general.
Yes, we're all English majors here. And I don't like it either, but I think CUNY is using there for those kinds of things.
Are they? Okay. Yeah, even that and other terms have been debated. Zer, I believe it is. I don't know what's going to be the word.
Great, thank you very much. Professor Katz.
Thank you. So I support this resolution. I think it's a very good compromise. One thing in response to Dean Vasquez's remarks, I think that faculty should be aware that if they see a letter of recommendation, it has a lot less weight than if they do not. Even if it's from their collaborator. So I think usually letters of this kind are not seen by the candidate and are not, so therefore would not be in the parse, but would be in the file.
Yeah, that's correct. The external evaluator letters, the candidate does not see, but if they submit a letter of support in their e-parse, then those are the letters they would see, as well as the DAC and the any ad hocs as part of the parse.
They can also have letters submitted on their behalf in their file that they don't see, that's not part of the e-parse.
I wouldn't be opposed to that idea. I think it's a good idea. None of these things are mutually exclusive.
Excuse me, I have a question. Marco.
Yes.
Yeah. This business that candidates cannot see their own letters, is this a CUNY sort of regulation?
That they can't see it. I think it's what they meant. The resolution is is that these are, what is it here? Are evaluated by peers who have expertise in their area of study and are external to CUNY. And I think in this guidance that they gave us, that they did include that they were concerned with that. And, and it's the way, a lot of materials are. And I think that again, the compromise that we are also allowed to include our own letters is a good compromise, right? That way we can have both. I can see the value in both, right? So, I know that typically, when people apply to law school and whatnot and grad schools, that right, they get these recommendation letters. This is, it's a norm in a lot of places. It's not the only way to do things, and that's why our own letters, we can put them in also. So I think taken together, it balances things out. And I think also what Neil said is also a letter that you solicited but you haven't seen might carry a different kind of weight, might carry more weight than one that you have seen, right? And I think that's why, right, in a lot of these graduate school applications, they allow you to either see the letters or not. And there's a lot of stuff already in a file, so you can always add that stuff in.
No, if I just may follow, it's just that in my previous experience, candidates for promotion, because this is not graduate students getting into colleges or whatnot. These are candidates that are going for promotion, and they need to know whether or not the letter that has been solicited, does not jeopardize their own their interests, right? But I mean, I don't have an opinion one way or another. If that's the way it has been going and nobody has a problem with it, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I mean, so someone might have a problem. I certainly understand that, but then again, our ability to put in our own other letters to counter that to some degree could alleviate that to some degree, right? I mean, we didn't make up this policy. Like, this was something that came down from CUNY some years ago, and so what's the best we can do with it is kind of like my issue, and I think this is the best we can do with that.
Right. Yeah, except that unless you have access to the actual letter, you wouldn't know whether or not you need to solicit your own letter. But I'm not, it's fine. I'm just playing the devil's advocate here. But I mean, it is something to be thought about.
And then maybe people should be encouraged to solicit their own letters, right? Because you're not sure, what the letter is coming in, so you should solicit your own letters in addition. And hopefully over time, review committees will kind of get a balance to all this.
Ashwin, I think you're next.
Yeah, so I have a question, Marco. So let's say someone is hired before 2018 as a lecturer, and then their title changes to assistant professor track after 2018. Will this apply to them or not?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, Pamela, do you have any perspective on that?
I was hoping, I believe, yes, because it's, it's a new appointment when you start in a tenure track position.
Because it says here, tenure track faculty hired in 2018, 2019 or later. So, but they were hired technically before 2018.
But they weren't hired as an assistant professor before 2018.
Okay, thank you.
And it wouldn't be tenure track, right? It would be the same goes for professors.
Okay, thank you so much.
There was a proposal below, change hired to appointed, perhaps a friendly amendment. I don't know if that's.
And which page is that? Or
perhaps wherever it says hired, appointed maybe.
Oh, this is Kathy. I suggested it just because I think that gets rid of the person who gets the different position, just in the title.
Right, yeah, on the top.
Okay, hired Yeah, it would clarify it and make it more.
There's another question. Okay, Anne.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I mean, I can.
So is Marco going to say something?
I mean, I don't know if we would need like a formal amendment to. If it's a friendly amendment, right? I'd have to make a motion. That would have to be a motion to change it.
When we do we can do it with the
with the final vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
So
No, for a friendly amendment, as long as the proposer accepts it, then that's it.
Okay.
And no one is opposing. All right. So appointed.
Anne.
I just wanted to say that there are always parts of a faculty member's personnel file that are inaccessible, and that has always been the case. And my assumption is that the external evaluator letters would go into that portion of the personnel file. My concern, though, would be that for people who don't get promoted, whether they would at any point gain, from the comments that were made by the external evaluator when they go up for a subsequent promotion, or when they put in a subsequent application for promotion.
I mean, we could take that up as a different policy, right? Maybe.
I know that there is a conversation between candidates who have been denied promotion and the dean. I see Justin's hands up there, and I assume that the dean perhaps would convey the content of all the reasons that the person was not promoted, and that could include.
If I could chime in on that, when I and the other deans discuss with candidates the ad hoc report, that basically encompasses the various factors that led to it, which would include letters. I don't know that we want letter writers to be uncertain as to whether or not the candidate will see their letter sometime in the future. Thanks.
I agree. I mean, they are confidential and they must stay so, strictly, I'd say.
Right, and maybe that could be taken up in some way, just like we convey other things, at the meetings, in a different policy, right? We can take that up, right? Maybe just not include everything in this one thing. This is meant to address, this requirement for the Board of Trustees. Right, we always have more work to do.
I'm sorry, Marco, just so that I'm not misunderstood, I'm not talking about the letters for initial sort of appointment. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the letters for promotion from tenure to full, for instance. Those are the letters that I'm talking about. So just to be clear.
Yeah. I mean, again, if that could be conveyed to the candidate, without conveying the letter, right, the exact letter, right, but sort of the meaning, I think, again, that is already, done, afterwards with the dean and the candidate. There's, maybe we can change the personnel, the handbook, to include some verbiage about that, just like other things from ad hoc meeting, not ad hoc, the general P&B meeting is conveyed without conveying the exact, proceedings, but the meaning of it is conveyed. Maybe we can add that onto the personnel guidelines in some way, that the meaning should be conveyed in some kind of way. But that would be, that would have to be something, different from this policy. I don't think, again, I believe things should be done more modularly, right? We do this, then we do this, because otherwise we try to put everything together. We never pass anything. So we pass this and then pass another policy that addresses that might work. Mm-hmm. But I think your concern is important and it's doable, I think. Right, because we already have a procedure for other things that are confidential.
I mean, at Ohio State, that was the case, for instance. I saw my own letters for tenure, right? And whatever they had said, So I don't know how prevalent this is in other institutions. I don't really have a sense of it one way or any other. But I'm saying that, as a state institution, that was definitely an option for the faculty in my previous institution.
Parveen, I just wanted to say this was part of the guidance that we received from the CUNY Office of Academic Affairs. And the thinking is just like the actual votes that the department makes or the P&B makes are not made known to the candidate, so people aren't trying to figure out who voted for them who voted against them. The same thing here. The feeling was that if the external evaluator knew that the letter that they were writing was confidential, they would be more likely to give an honest appraisal. And that's the rationale behind the thinking.
Yeah.
Provost Brown, was that your question that you had your hand up for, or your response? Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so we're gonna, one more. Okay, we have one more.
Actually, Philip, I actually wanted to make a motion to either end the discussion or make a vote.
Yes. Okay, great. So, you won't really have to, because I don't have any other hands up after this. So we'll go right to the vote part of this. We'll, in the chat will be a link in order to do the online vote. Oh, there it is. It appears instantly. So go ahead and vote online in the chat for the external evaluation letter policy. And Marco, you can go ahead and release the screen share now. Thank you. Okay. And thank you for presenting that and answering the questions from the committee.
You're welcome. And again, other things, policy making, we could try to amend things later on depending on people's feelings, so nothing ever totally ends right now. And so, we'll see what the future holds. Okay.
So make sure to vote. If you can't vote, it's possibly because you're not a voting member. So, okay, so let's move on to item B, the Committee on Students. Is anybody from the Students Committee here willing to present this? Because Professor Gregory couldn't make it, and I'm going to have to present it, and I'm not as intimately familiar with it. So is there anybody willing, or should I just go ahead and go? I hope somebody is willing to answer any questions that there may be about this. Okay, I will go ahead and do this then. In a moment. We will start with the forgiveness clause resolution. Yes. Let's see. So this is revising the forgiveness clause, which we normally have, and I believe that our forgiveness clause, the change. One of the changes is that the changes in the time period for forgiveness is 5 years rather than 10 years. That was one of the two changes that were done. And let's see, I forgot what the other change there was about this. I apologize. Anyone from the Students Committee that has this information that is able to summarize this relatively quickly, please?
I'm not from the Student Committee, Philip, but I could give us a summary. Under the current forgiveness policy, only students that left the college 10 or more years ago and have not attended any college in the last 10 years are eligible for the forgiveness clause. And this policy was developed probably 30 years ago. And there doesn't seem to be anyone around who can understand why they can't have attended any other college in the last 10 years, and be eligible for it. So that part was removed, that if somebody's coming back after 5 years and they had Fs, Ws, etc., they can be removed from the student's GPA calculation. Because, there are other mechanisms like pounding out an F or a WU where you repeat the course. But after 5 years, technology and courses change so often, there may not be the same courses required for the major, and it may not be to the best advantage of a student to have to take courses that may not contribute to their degrees, or that we may not even offer anymore. So that was the thinking behind the two major changes here.
Great, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Are there any questions at all before we go on to the second one? And I think we'll be voting for both at the same time. So no questions. This is the extent of, oh, sorry, no, there's. So I'll leave this up for a few more seconds. And admit some people. Okay.
Can you make it enlarge it a little bit, the Zoom, so I can read the new language?
All right, let me. Whoa. All right, give me 1 sec here. Down here at the bottom here, right? Oh, wait, where do you want it scrolled now?
That was it.
The bottom paragraph is the new
policy.
The new wording, yes. Right?
Okay, yeah, sorry. And these were all sent out in the link with the agenda if you want to download them too as well. Okay, and so there's no comments on this? Let me change to the other. So the second item is the student bereavement guidelines. Open that up, and let me zoom into this a little bit too as well. Well, maybe I can zoom in. Not quite as much. So I don't know, Provost Brown, if you wanted to summarize this too as well. Did you work on this, or are you as familiar with that?
I'm sorry, I'm not as familiar with this one. It basically is extending the bereavement policy that faculty and staff have to students.
Right. And there was I believe, a time change too, to granting 4 days of bereavement, if I'm not mistaken. And that was one of the things that was important, an important change in this one as well. So I'll leave this up here so that you can look at this. This went through last year and we never really voted on it. And so it got picked up again, but somehow late in the year. So are there any questions about this policy?
Yes, Philip, could I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
Thanks, because I know proof of death is a rather sensitive topic. So
right.
just wanted clarity. What is the process for students to submit that?
Where is that located? Because I believe that I'm really sorry because I'm doing this on.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to guess, it would be the Office of Student Affairs.
That's correct. It's always been, in my experience, student affairs. And then once the death certificate is received, is also often shared with the registrar's office so that we can update the student's record.
So this policy does not mandate that. This policy is not meant to create an extra step for a student who is in a bereavement situation to have to check in with yet another office. The faculty are empowered to accept the explanation as is. There is no requirement for confirmation by student affairs for this. It is meant to give people some barometer as to what might be acceptable, because there were times when faculty didn't think that they should give any days because there was nothing to refer to. But this policy does not require a confirmation by anybody else other than the faculty member. The faculty member can simply take the student's word for it if they'd like to. But we do not want to create another hurdle for somebody who's trying to deal with a death by by going to yet another office for confirmation. And the faculty member is not limited to 4 days. If the faculty member thinks it's reasonable and can work it out with the student to get things done to meet the requirements of the course, they can. They're not limited to these 4 days either.
Okay, great. Thank you for that explanation. Let's see. I'm going down the list. So, Catherine.
Hi, it does say that proof of death is required. So if it isn't required, I think we might need to change that. And I just have a question about whether, depending on the relationship, one is immediately able to get a death certificate. If it's your mother-in-law or something, I'm just saying, I'm not sure how fast a death certificate arrives in a student's hand. So I think that could be a barrier.
That's a good point. And I do know that we had discussed this, that proof of death wasn't required. And so there should be a friendly amendment if there's no objection to removing this from this proposal. So I've got this noted down that we can make sure to remove that ahead of time. Thank you. Let's see, Dion, Professor Bennett.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I remember this one, and I remember my objection at the time is that 4 days, even as mandated, is not enough time. I think I, recalled that I lost my mother when I was in college and was deeply devastated. Still am. So I just think that these kinds of documents, I know that the professor has the authority to extend the time, but I'm an anthropologist, these kinds of documents are culture defining documents. And when you have a culturally defining document that is so, I think, cruel, then you are promoting a culture of cruelty. And I just think that 4 days, I think it should be at least a week. And so that's where I think it goes beyond the individual student who is grappling with this and the individual faculty member who is grappling with this. And it goes to a question of who we are culturally. What is our identity, our cultural identity as an institution? And I found this too cruel before, and I find it too cruel now. So I know it'll pass, but I just think that should be said.
Does anyone from the students committee that maybe discussed the time want to?
So I can comment that, it was put on the table for the exact opposite. What the faculty members on the committee were voicing is that they found there were times when students were not given any reasonable time at all, and they looked at what other colleges were doing. And Brooklyn had stated on their website, they were the only ones I think we could find that stated something on their website. And the Brooklyn one essentially mirrors what what faculty are given and staff are given for bereavement, which is the 4 days. So it was, the point of this was not to put a limit, but to put a floor so that people could at least get the 4 days, but that hopefully people will be able to work out something that's reasonable and helpful for a student in this situation. But I understand without the right language, perhaps Dion's point is that everybody looks at it as if it's 4 days, no matter what the situation is, and that's not the case. But it's meant to encourage and essentially give the student at least the ability to have point to something that says, well, I should get at least 4 days per your policy if they had a difficult situation in a class where, for whatever reason, the student isn't being given any time to deal with this bereavement.
Thank you very much. I get one more hand raised, I guess. Maureen?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I think Deanne's point is well raised that, bereavement is an individual process and not everybody progresses through bereavement at the same time. Unfortunately, we also have to consider that we're time limited to a 15-week semester. So we have to think it's important to set up some sort of logical, within reason time boundary. It would be very hard in a 15-week semester to allow 4 weeks. That might be, too difficult for everybody to catch up on that kind of work. I think that I've dealt with students for many years, and I think that 4 days is not a clear statement. And I think the reason 4 days is not a clear statement, because if your class only meets once a week, students will interpret that they can miss a month of 4 days. Your class comes once a week, they miss it 4 times because that's 4 days of missing your class. So I think it needs to be, with dealing with students, things need to be crystal clear. So I would suggest either saying 4 days within a week, or 5 days within a week if people want to extend it, but it should be a more clarified time frame.
Or could it possibly be just a week? And that's specific and it's not connected to class time.
I thought we were bound by what applies to faculty and staff at City Tech, and that was sort of the way in which this entire proposal was patterned. I mean, wasn't it to mirror? I mean, this is what I see in the top, which is the only line that makes the word therefore in students are therefore granted 4 days logical.
So I guess it could be 4 calendar days, correct?
Yeah, but, I mean,
Professor Katz?
Thanks. I'm going to suggest the following friendly amendments. One is to say that instead of removing the sentence that a death certificate is required, I would put that a death certificate is not required. That gives more guidance to the spirit of this resolution. I'd also suggest that the 4 days be changed to a week, or maybe at least a week. If it's more than a week, I mean, it's true that the time is limited, but maybe a sentence about that faculty can consider incompletes, giving incompletes in the case of the student needs more than a week. So there are two things to consider here. One is the missed class time, and the other is the missed work. And there's already a mechanism to address missed work, and this is certainly a reason to give an incomplete, I would think. So I think if we do this, we can get the policy in place as soon as possible, and the most students can benefit from it. The more students benefit, the earlier we do it.
Thank you. Dion, you have another question?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. Students are not employees of the university. Technically, they're clients of the university. So the idea of imposing the standard for employees, like faculty and staff, on to students seems, I just don't think that that's a fair application. They're two completely different categories of relationship to the institution. So I don't think that that's a fair framework. Yeah, I don't think it's a fair framework. I think it's also important to remember how many of our students are transnational, meaning either they or their parents or family members are immigrants. Many of their family members are in other countries. So when they're looking for extra time, sometimes they're looking at extra travel time to other countries and the time to attend a funeral and get back. So that's why I also think a week for an institution with such a high number of transnational students, which we have, and of which I think we should be quite proud, I think that also justifies the week.
So if I could make a proposal, because I would like to continue on with the, and we have to have a solid proposal for these amendments, that I would say as a friendly amendment to add proof of death is not required, and change the 4 days to 1 week. If we decide to revisit this again, we can of course revisit it again. That way it's a very specific time, a very specific edit to this that we can vote on. And Professor Katz is absolutely right. It's best to get this in place for the students now. This is the last meeting we have. So, that would be my proposal for a friendly amendment. If anybody, and I guess since I'm sort of presenting it, I guess I'm the proposer too, which I would accept, I suppose, unless we have any comments about any differences.
Yeah, quite a few people in the text are indicating that they're also in favor of the statement about this would be a good justification for an incomplete or some other phrase like that.
Okay, but I have to have an exact phrase to put in to amend it. I can't have a friendly amendment with just, something like,
Assignment of an incomplete grade may be appropriate.
Okay. So
I think it's important that it say may be appropriate because we actually have a percentage on incompletes for missed work. And if we're not going to deal with the 20%, then that's a whole other policy that has to be looked at as well.
Should we send this back to be reviewed for next year? Yeah. Professor Budney, are you proposing?
I just wanted to say something about the incomplete, specifically for the programs that have clinicals or laboratories. If bereavement happens in the beginning of the semester and we give incomplete, it might be very difficult to catch up with work, especially because a lot of it has to be done in a classroom. So if the student has 30 days afterwards the next semester to complete the incomplete grade, that puts a lot of stress and strain on the faculty as well to take the student through all the work that has to be completed. So I don't think the incomplete grade works for all of the programs in this case.
So it sounds like we need to send this back to the committee for review again, because there's an issue with the time frame and the incompletes, the idea of the incomplete.
Philip, I would encourage us to try to think of that sentence that gives enough flexibility. I mean, faculty always have flexibility when it comes to incompletes, and so this wouldn't take away from that. So maybe a sentence to the effect of, if the missed work is within the normal bounds where an incomplete is appropriate, then this is something that faculty can consider.
So would it be, could I ask you to type it up in the chat maybe? And that way we can be very specific about what the friendly amendment.
Sure, and I could be more specific because 20% translates to about the last month of the semester. So we could say if the bereavement arises during the last month of the semester, then the instructor can determine whether or not an incomplete might be appropriate. I could type that up if you'd like.
Okay, great. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Sure. Professor David? Well, oh, I'm sorry, Susan, I accidentally lowered your hand before you had a chance to say it.
Can I just mention that we only have 12 minutes left to announce any curriculum proposals that are going to be sent to Central before the end of this academic year for implementation in spring, and anything that doesn't get announced today will not be able to be implemented till the following fall.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. Okay, so there's a friendly amendment. Let's go ahead and vote on this one with the friendly amendment of adding not to the location where it says proof of death is not required, changing the granted 4 days to granted 1 week, and then Dean Vasquez-Porras put a sentence in: if the bereavement occurs during the last month of the semester, then the instructor can determine whether an incomplete might be appropriate. So that will be inserted into this. So I will go ahead and stop the share and allow the vote for both the resolution regarding the changes of forgiveness clause and the student bereavement guidelines to be posted. Oh, there it is. And you can go ahead and go.
Just wanted to say, Philip, that the reference to 4 days occurs 2 paragraphs down or 1 paragraph down as well. So that amendment would have to be made in 2 places, please.
In both places, got it.
Thank you.
I'll make sure to get this information to Professor Gregory.
Thank you.
Changes to it. Okay, let's see. So now Professor Koja with the Legislative Committee resolution.
Thank you very much, Philip.
Wait, couldn't we vote to announce the curriculum next, just so that it can make the next?
Well, they're all minors. And so there's no vote necessary. So we can.
But they just have to be announced. So
Yes.
could we go ahead and announce them now?
Well, let's do this. I propose that we allow the extension of this meeting for 15 minutes to announce the curriculum proposals.
That would work.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye.
And remember that anything past 2 o'clock, we can just keep announcing. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so this meeting will continue until 2:15. And since those are just announcements, they can continue on after the 2 o'clock deadline. Okay, Professor Koja.
Thank you very much, Philip. So in the interest of saving time, I'd like to go over the recent changes that we made to our resolution on executive search procedures. So 2 weeks ago, we had an open hearing, and thank you very much for everyone who participated and expressed their comments. So we listened to them and we made some changes, and they are outlined here. So there are two main changes. So the first one is the pool from which a search committee will be formed can now have tenured assistant professors. Okay, so in the previous version, the requirement was that the members with faculty rank ought to have a rank of associate professor or full professor, but now after much deliberation, we decided that tenured assistant professors can take part in the pool as well. So they can take part in the pool and also in the search committee. And the second change that we made, that there was some legitimate concerns on the issue that the search committee would not be diverse enough. So for that, we added this clause to this the sentence here. Now, if certain expertise is deemed necessary for a successful search, or in order to ensure diversity, up to one member of the search committee may be appointed by the president from outside the pool. So, and here the word diversity does not only apply to race, but also, in general, gender or faith. So this gives the president an option to make the search committee as diverse as possible. So these are the two main changes. So I hope we have addressed all the main concerns that were raised in the past weeks. So we'd like to put this on a vote. And if there are any comments, I'd like to invite Neil Katz to respond to questions. So thank you very much.
And I'll open up to comments very briefly so we can get the vote in. Remember, this has been through meetings all year, an open meeting and so on. So, of course, this has possibility of editing later or changes, amendments. Any questions or comments? Okay. All right. So then I guess we can put this up for a vote. And this will allow us to continue on to item 5D. Wait a minute, 5D, the curriculum committee items. So Anne Marie, you're here, right? Yes, there you are. Do you
yes, I am.
Are you able to share your screen?
I am.
So please vote on all of the items that were up while the presentation for curriculum committee items.
Thank you, Philip. So we have 2, 4, 5 minor curriculum proposals to announce today. All of these are available on the current proposal page on the College Council website. 21I is from Construction Management. Professor Villatoro is the proposer. This is minor curriculum changes, including to prerequisites. and to course descriptions. Proposal 21J from Professor Aptekar in Architectural Technology. This proposal reflects ecological broader path and elective changes. This is again a minor proposal. The 3 parts including adding the required course topic, increasing and clarifying existing elective courses, and changing the prerequisites for 1 course. 21K from Professor Malonis in Computer Systems Technology. The proposal is minor modifications to CST 2402. This changes the prerequisites from Math 1475 to 1375 and adds CST 2402 to the electives for the Computer Information Systems Associates Program. 21L is a minor proposal from Professors Boone, McDonald, and Westengard of African American Studies, Social Science, and English, respectively. This is a proposal on ID option for academic minors in schools of arts and science, And this proposal adds a 3-credit independent study option to the curricula of existing academic minors that are inherently interdisciplinary, including Black visual cultures, gender and sexuality studies, and environmental studies. And proposal 21M, minor proposal from Professor Halleck of mathematics, revised learning outcomes and electives in computer science. This proposal changes program-specific courses, including replacement of required math and removal of other courses. It updates the list of permitted electives and changes program outcomes, learning outcomes, and replaces the catalog single calculus start version of the course of study with 3 versions: calculus, pre-calculus, and college algebra. Are there any questions on any of these proposals? Otherwise, they're announced. Yes. Professor Katz?
Yes, thank you. I have a question about 21L.
Yes.
It mentions independent study, an interdisciplinary independent study. I was not aware of the existence of such a course. I thought it was just we did have an independent study course. Does this minor change create a separate independent study in interdisciplinary independent study course, or could the usual independent study course, or does the usual independent study course satisfy the requirement?
I can answer that if that's okay. The usual independent study course is open-ended. It doesn't specify any particular designations. That's up to the proposer, the chair, and the dean to determine. Even now, it's possible to have an independent study with several faculty members from different departments. That is interdisciplinary. So in that sense, we would use the same independent study course. What this does require, though, is some evaluation by the interdisciplinary committee. Thanks.
Thank you, Dean Vasquez-Ports.
Any other questions or comments? Friendly amendments? Congratulations. All right, I guess that's it. Wow, we made it almost too. We won't be able to finish the entire agenda. We got through the voting and we got through the curriculum item. So we're going to continue this on to the continuation meeting, which happens next week. There's a lot of great information, so I highly suggest everyone shows up. And plus, we need a quorum. And so please show up at the next week's meeting at the same time, same place. The following week, for those of you that are continuing on, will be our organizational meeting. So there's a link in the chat to make sure that you voted for the various items that required a vote. And it's 2:00 and we didn't even need the extension. And so we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting for the continuation meeting starting next week. And I'll send out an agenda again, just to make sure everybody remembers. Great. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. And we'll see you all next week.
Are we not doing good and welfare?
We can do, I'm sorry, we could do good and welfare. Yeah, because that's right. That's a good idea. Any good and welfare? Sorry.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
This is Professor Xiaohai Li from CT department.
Yes, we can hear you. Well, actually, no, we cannot now. I'm sorry, you're...
Oh, okay. How about now?
Okay,
Can you hear me?
there you go. Yes. We got it.
Hi. Hold on this Thursday to 2 p.m. and the announcement and now the one last Friday at the.
I'm sorry, you're cutting out. You may have to restart again. Sorry.
Oh, okay. How about I just type in the chat?
You can type it in the chat. Okay, so there's an announcement in the chat from the humanities department you can take a look at.
That's a presentation that's happening at 1:00 tomorrow. So particularly wanted to point that out about the Russia-Ukraine war and food security, local and global perspectives. It's being given by Professor Diana Mincita over Zoom. We urge you please to save the link and show up tomorrow at 1:00. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
And Philip, there are two more. One is that tomorrow we will have our Scholar on Campus event at 5 p.m. in the new building in the lobby, starting with a reception, and then the program starts at 6 in A105. And on Thursday, we'll have our Honors and Emerging Scholars poster session award ceremony for our students.
Great, thank you. Oh, sorry. Great, thank you very much. Okay, great. So the CET department information is in the chat as well. And also Professor Vieda has posted our thesis poster, which we talked about at the beginning of the meeting too as well. And Provost Brown, you had your hand up or no?
I was going to announce Scholar on Campus if AP Blake didn't, but that's been taken care of. And congratulations to Hamid Nurozi and Diana Samaru, who are Scholar on Campuses last year and this year, respectively.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other good and welfare? Okay, so I guess we will hold on this meeting to our continuations next week. I will send out an agenda and a reminder. And we will see you all next week. Have a good, nice, beautiful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you.
Philip,
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you.
Thank you.